Teenage girls desperately trying to eat fried chicken, barbecue pizza, eating and crying at the same time. She ordered 10 dishes by herself, shoving it into her mouth in huge gulps. When she can't eat anymore, she runs to the bathroom to throw up. After throwing up, she came back and took a swig of beer. She kept eating and crying. After eating, she kept throwing up because she was terminally ill. She had less than 10 years to live. The fear of death was a thorn in her side that she couldn't pull out. Lisa had just been diagnosed when she was in college. Hospital trips were a common occurrence at a young age. Her heart was on the verge of breaking every day, but she still pretended to be strong in front of her family. To help ease the burden on her family, Lisa started looking for a job with her CV in hand, but with no university degree and no education, and a recurring medical condition. No company would hire her. Lisa was reluctant but had no choice. She just wanted to live, but reality slapped her in the face again and again. But then Lisa received a phone call. Her old classmate had jumped off a building in a moment of despair. Lisa goes to visit and learns that her classmate, Roy, has broken up with his family and he moved to the big city on his own. But after years of not being able to find the job she wanted, he had nothing to do all day. So she chose to take her own life in a moment of despair. Luckily, he only broke his leg. Roy talks about the pain of living, feeling that life has no meaning. Roy's thoughts made Lisa, who wanted to live, red-eyed with anger. She suddenly got up and turned to Roy and told him that it was too much to take life so lightly. Then she turned and left. Roy had no idea of Lisa's condition, the life he most wanted to give up at that moment. For Lisa, it was the most luxurious. Long after that, Mother brought Lisa to the hospital for a follow-up. Roy happened to bump into her. He thought it was Lisa's mother who was seriously ill. That's why Lisa reacted the way she did. So he invited her to dinner after she was discharged. He apologized for the rude remark he had made. He also thanked Lisa for waking him up. Having had very little interaction with people, Roy stammered when he spoke. He made Lisa laugh at his cute face. The atmosphere was not so dead for a while. Gradually, they talked about their school days. They talked about their hobbies and interests. After dinner, Roy took Lisa home, still a little reluctant to leave. Passing by a cherry tree in full bloom, Lisa grabbed her camera. She wanted to capture this beautiful moment on film. It was a habit she'd had since she'd fallen ill, thinking that if she suddenly died one day, at the very least, the beauty she had recorded could still be preserved. A sudden gust of wind. It caught their eyes for a moment. When they looked up again, they were greeted by the cherry blossoms in the sky, and that gentle face looking at each other. The air seemed to have a touch of warmth in it. It would be a lie to say that their feelings were not touched. They laughed awkwardly, standing under the cherry blossom tree, like a pair of sweet lovers. Lisa's encouragement lifted Roy's spirits. He tidied up his cluttered room, looking hard for work, making every day of his life count. And so it was. He took a job as a waiter in a small restaurant. Although he didn't earn much, but his life was very fulfilling. It was a great relief for Lisa to see the change in him. It gave her the courage to live again. With the introduction of her best friend, Lisa found a job as a novel editor. The first article she published was a hit. Her family was happy for her. She was also happy for herself. Life was once again on the right track. Lisa is being cared for by her family and friends. She is finally back to her old smile. Lisa worked hard every day and took her medication regularly. Gradually, she finally got over the fear of death. Lisa and Roy became more and more involved in each other's lives. They enjoyed the fireworks together. They went to Christmas together, tasting food together. Together they felt the beauty of life. They say that companionship is the purest form of confession. Lisa fell in love with Roy, and Roy fell in love with Lisa. That night at the temple fair, Roy got up the courage to take Lisa's hand. Lisa was happy in her heart, but the moment she touched Roy, she let go of her hand. She felt she didn't deserve it. She only had a few years left to live. She didn't deserve to waste someone else's feelings for her. Lisa attended her sister's wedding. She looked like an angel in her white dress. It made Lisa envious and eager. She envied such love and longed for love of her own. And yet it was the one thing she could not ask for. Roy didn't give up on Lisa. With the help of his friends, finally a chance to be alone. Roy wants to tell Lisa how he feels, but was too nervous to say anything. So he took Lisa's hand again and gave her a hug. Lisa felt the warmth, with tears in her eyes. But when she thought she was going to die soon, but pushed Roy away. She longed for love, but she was afraid to be loved. When she returned home, Lisa looked at the scars from the operation and despaired. They were like a symbol to remind her, don't drag anyone down. Lisa's illness was getting a little worse. The doctors told her not to get excited. Otherwise, her life could be in danger. But on that very day, Roy had asked Lisa out again. This time he didn't stammer. Instead, he mustered up the courage to say, I like you. I want to be with you. Lisa breathed heavily. She didn't want Roy to know about her condition, so she turned around and left. But before she could take a few steps, she suddenly fainted. Luckily, Roy was able to get her to the hospital in time. She was taken to hospital in time to save her life. Lisa knew she couldn't hide it anymore. She had to tell Roy everything. She had pulmonary hypertension. It could come on at any time and be life-threatening, so she couldn't accept Roy's love. She didn't want to be a burden to others. Roy said he didn't care about that. If he's sick, He'll get treatment. He wanted to stay and take care of Lisa. Lisa got well before thinking about their future together. Lisa didn't say. She didn't dare to say that the disease was incurable. She kicked Roy out of the ward. She didn't want him to see her vulnerable side. 10 years of her life were already half over. Now she might only have 4 more years to live. Lisa's illness began to worsen. The medication she had been on was no longer working. She often collapsed suddenly. To prevent Lisa from getting hurt, her father had thoughtfully installed handrails in the house. Her sister also contacted a hospital abroad. They say they can do lung transplants there. With any luck, she might be able to find a donor, but her family's good intentions put an invisible pressure on Lisa. It was as if she was being reminded all the time that she was dying. The weight of her love was too much for Lisa to bear. Her family was about to sell their house to pay for her treatment. She didn't want to drag her family down any further. The father was speechless. For him, his daughter was his life. How could he give up like that? The mother covered her chest and cried her heart out. We all understand. It was futile to do anything now. Lisa went to the restaurant alone. She ate what the doctors wouldn't let her eat. It wasn't that she was giving up on herself. She just didn't want to. She was dying, but she couldn't taste the goodness of the world. She was in love with Roy, but she's afraid to accept his confession. The other side. Roy was also thinking about Lisa. He understood that what Lisa had said the other day had been angry, but now he was afraid that Lisa would say no again. The boss saw what he was thinking and told Roy, life doesn't always go as planned. If you love someone, don't give up so easily, because you only live once. It's a miracle to meet the love of your life. Roy didn't hesitate. He ran like a madman. Lisa didn't answer his calls. He searched street by street. Maybe it was a blessing from God. Finally, on that overpass, he came across a distraught Lisa. Roy told Lisa. She gave him the courage to live. So now, he wanted to be by Lisa's side too. If Lisa doesn't accept him, he could wait till the end of time, until the end of his life. Lisa wept with joy. This time she didn't refuse. She threw herself into Roy's arms. She wanted this love so badly. She hugged Roy so tightly. And so, the two loved each other so much that they finally came together. Like couples who fall in love. They spent the new year together, watching the sunrise together. They spent their birthdays together. They went to see the cherry blossoms together. Even if they go to the market to buy food. It was all very sweet. It was a seemingly uneventful life that Lisa cherished. Finally, she made a decision that she would write a novel about her love for Roy, so that the beauty of it would be recorded in the form of words, to tell the story of her happiness and sorrow. The sweet days were short-lived. The longer they were together, the more Lisa feared loss. Now she doesn't really fear death. What she really fears, of never feeling the world she loved so much again, not being able to touch the people she loved most. First draft of the novel is finished, but Lisa's health was deteriorating by the day. She gave the novel to her best friend. She hoped to see it published in her lifetime. She was in tears after just a short reading, because what was written in the novel, the most heartfelt confessions in the world. Lisa went to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor told her she didn't have long to live, but Lisa asked the doctor to try the medicine on her own body. She wanted to use her body to experiment so that people with the same illness could be reborn. It didn't matter if the side effects were severe. She was ready to leave. Sister was afraid to look at Lisa. She ran to the bathroom and burst into tears. This weekend, Lisa braced herself to go skiing with Roy. They had happy smiles on their faces. They were so happy they couldn't contain themselves. Just then, Roy suddenly took out his diamond ring. He proposed to Lisa. Lisa said that Roy's proposal wasn't a good enough gesture. Lisa politely refused in this way. How she wanted to say yes, but the countdown to life was on. Early the next morning, Lisa chose to leave without saying goodbye. Roy tried desperately to catch up, though he didn't know what he'd done wrong, but said over and over again that he was sorry, pleading with Lisa not to go. This was the moment Lisa wasn't going to hide anymore. Lisa said, I've been lying to you all this time. The truth is that my disease is incurable. It's a disease that almost no one can survive for more than 10 years. So, I can't be with you anymore. Roy became overwhelmed. He didn't want to lose Lisa like this, pleading with her to stay. He could live with whatever the outcome was. He just wanted to be with her. But Lisa had already made up her mind. It was because she loved Roy. That's why she wanted to leave with dignity. Lisa cried and said that if the two continue to be together, I will become afraid of death. Thank you for letting me be your girlfriend. You have to live well. I have to be ready to die. This is my last request. Lisa left anyway. When Lisa returned home, her mother made a pot of her favorite soup. Lisa watched and wept. At her mother's side, she couldn't hold on any longer. She cried and said she didn't want to die. She wanted to live. She couldn't let go of her family or her friends. She wanted to marry Roy. She had not yet honored her mother and father. Her mother was too full of tears to cry out. She kept comforting Lisa, telling her not to be afraid. Mom was always there. Father didn't say a word, but if he could, he would not hesitate to trade his life for his daughters. He wouldn't have hesitated. Would he? Lisa's illness was still in an advanced stage. She was admitted to the hospital. She had a short haircut that didn't look very good. Her thin face was no longer radiant. Her life was counting down by the day. She took the video camera out. One by one, She deleted the videos. She didn't want to remember the good things she had recorded, because the more she remembered, the more painful it became. She wanted to erase herself from this world. It was as if she had never been. But when Lisa saw the video of her first encounter with Roy, but she hesitated to do so, because it was the beginning of her rebirth. It was the one thing she couldn't let go of.
頑張るからさ、もう死にたいなんて思わないでください。
Time seemed to freeze at that moment, and Lisa fell into a coma. In the illusion, she could run wild with Roy. She could laugh and feel the beauty of life. She even walked into the wedding hall with Roy. They got married, and then they had a healthy baby. The baby grew up babbling and talking. The three of them could go to see the cherry blossoms together, but it was all a fantasy. Lisa can't hold on much longer. She's running out of time. Roy got the manuscript of the novel from his best friend. Tears flowed instantly as he saw the scenes written in it. He loved Lisa. He couldn't get Lisa out of his mind. This moment, for the first time, Roy broke his promise to Lisa. He couldn't lose the love of his life like that, so he rode off on his bike, a race to the death. He rode as fast as he could, as if going faster would give him one more second with Lisa. Lisa was in the resuscitation room, trying to save her life. Maybe it was because she had a wish to fulfill, or maybe she sensed that Roy was coming. She broke free from death's grasp, but she fell into a coma. Roy arrived and took Lisa's hand in his. His heart ached at the sight of his lover's haggard state. He told Lisa that he had taken over a shop and become the owner, and that the name of the shop, Lisa. And in that moment, Lisa gave a response. She slowly opened her eyes and looked deep into Roy's eyes. Lisa smiled. She smiled with satisfaction, and finally at Roy's side, and closed her eyes forever. Lisa, still dead. Her novel was successfully published. It was released to great acclaim, and it's called 10 Years to Live. Roy took her DV, once again under the cherry blossom tree where they met. In this moment, the wind came again and blinded him. The cherry blossoms were falling from the sky. Roy could see Lisa again. She was smiling, a smile brighter than the cherry blossom.